My brother Steve and I come from a unique family. Our father was a brilliant man. The whole Canarossi side of the family are brilliant folks. Our father Gene worked his way from insulation to be one of the first software engineers with a long career at the Marshall Space Flight Center. And then there's our mother, Marie, Mama Marie, Grandma Marie, Madame Margot. There was once a commercial about the most interesting man in the world. Well, our mother certainly is the most interesting woman in the world. She once held a top secret clearance. She was one of the first fax machine sales reps. She was Grandma Ree of Grandma Ree's Bodacious Biscotti. She was an actress. She jumped out of a plane. She was a scuba diver. She rode the rapids. She skied. She caught lots of fish. She was the first on Dr. G medical examiner. She did a wonderful commercial for a hospital and ended up on a billboard. She even dated Archie Campbell of Hee Haw fame. And she's just an all-around incredible person. But let's let her tell the story.
I was born in Long Island, New York, in 1935, and I had a wonderful family.
My father came from a very large family. There were 10 children. There were just 2 girls and 8 boys. He was the first and only person in a family of 10 who went to college.
My mother was a wonderful person. She was born in New York City, and she was a very wonderful mother. She was very conscientious about keeping house, though. My mother wasn't really expecting any more children. My sister and myself were just a year apart. She thought she was through, and she got the biggest and most wonderful surprise when she found out that she was pregnant with Frank.
So when my they owned at that time, right before the Depression, they owned a big company, and they furnished feathers to all the opera singers because a lot of the women wore feathers in their costumes. And they had a beautiful business doing that. But then the Depression came, and my grandfather's partner ran away with all the money. My mother was the only girl in a family with 5 boys. So I had 5 wonderful uncles. There were 5 brothers. Reynold was only 23 years old when he died. And Reynold died of stomach cancer. So that left the 4. Uncle Ray, Uncle Joe, and Marcy, Marcy was the youngest. All the brothers were amazing, every single one of them. They all had musical talent, and they were all able to do marvelous things with music. And they'd say, don't you want to learn to play the piano? But I just didn't have any talent. So I was a singer. So when we would have everybody over to the house on Saturdays, they would have 5 or 6 of their friends over to their house on Saturday nights, and everybody played a musical instrument. And so they would let me sing myself. We had some very good times in the music room. Oh my God, all of them were so talented. They were so talented. And they would do recordings and stuff. So it was just a wonderful thing for a young person like myself. They used to go to the track. Yeah, Uncle Ray was the one that won. He could handicap you, you wouldn't believe. And the funny part about it was, he only could win when he was broke. And if he went and he had $50 in his pocket, he wouldn't win a damn dime. But if he went and he opened up his pockets and pennies rolled out, by golly, that he won. It really was like God said, you're not going to win, you don't need it. He played jazz. And in fact, he played in some of the, what are now real Tony places in New York where people go to dine and listen to music. He went to those places and played piano there, and half a dozen of those places, Adzi was my aunt, and she was still alive. And Adzi was probably, at that time, she probably was in her 60s. but she seemed so much older. So Aunt Zee really liked me. So she would say to me, "Shh, will you own," meaning little girl, and she'd take me into the storage room. And in the storage room were hams and all kinds of things hanging from the ceiling, that they were curing. And she would go like this, shh, and she would take me behind some piece of furniture in there, and she would give me anisette. They told us when we were young, they said, we're Italian. You got to know the Italian way. So you ladies you little girls, need to learn how to cook. So what we want you to do is come into the kitchen and learn how to cook. And my sister said, I don't want to learn how to cook. I want to learn how to do housekeeping. Hooray! I never had to do any housekeeping after that. She said, I want to learn how to scrub the floors. Woo-hoo! So I started cooking in the kitchen. That was my job. And I learned that I really loved to cook. And the more I cooked, the better it got, So that was my thing. I liked to cook. And she was a fabulous housekeeper, I tell you. She would love to get on the floor, actually, and scrub the floor with a brush. She was amazing. My aunt showed me how to make biscotti when I was 10 years old. She would say, William, come with me, and William, little girl. And I wanted to show you how to do something, and she taught me how to make biscotti. How to do the dough and everything. So I said, I learned how to do biscotti when I was like 10 years old. I've been making it all my life. And I've learned how to change it. I've learned how to make different flavors, because I only have the anise, and mine had cranberries and all sorts of things. Famous for what's not in it. It was no oil, no butter, no preservatives, no additives. It was 100% natural. And you know how my father was. The thing about him was he never wore clothes right. He always looked a mess. And every T-shirt he had was ripped. My mother would get so mad. She'd say, Uncle Louie always looks nice. And my mother would say, Frank, why can't you be like Louie? He looks like he just stepped out of a magazine. You always look like a bum. Only that, he would wear his pants so low you could see his underwear. We were living in Tampa, okay? And we lived in a decent area. I mean, we didn't have a fancy house. But from our house to downtown where the railroad station was probably 5 or 6 miles. So he said, I'm going to go pick up, Grandma, and I'll be back. So he decided to play a joke on her. So he picked her up at the railroad station, and he only went about 6 blocks into a very bad area, a slum. And so he picked a house where the porch was all slanted, and it looked like it was going to fall down. And he said to her, come on, Grandma, we're home. And she started crying. She said, no, my poor Marie, she's living in a slum. She got hysterical crying. He let her cry for a while, and he said, I'm just kidding. And he put her back in the car. Oh, was she mad? When I was very young, they were just building the skyscrapers. So my Uncle Ray, who was my favorite uncle, decided to take me downtown and get on the rough frame of a skyscraper that was just going up. So we went up just plain ordinary stairs, wooden stairs inside, and then there were boards across the floor with, of course, if you fell through, you'd fall to the next 3 or 4 floors. Right. So we had to be very careful getting up there. And I remember being up there and being able to see all across New York from the 12th floor of the submerging skyscraper. It was breathtaking, and I will never forget it. I was just a little girl, and there I was, about 8 years old, looking at New York from a skyscraper that was just going up. Gene and I used to play together when we were kids, only he didn't want to play with me because he was much older than me, and he'd tell me to get lost. We called him Uncle Louie. I was on the second floor at Uncle Ray's apartment when Uncle Donnie said, "Our company is here." And your father came in the door with his parents just as I was coming down the stairs wearing this beautiful outfit. And he said he fell in love at first sight. After we kept going together, he said, "Oh, you were that little brat." We got married at a nuptial mass. Took 2.5 hours to get married. And so Daddy said, "You can take the Jeep, and that way you can go to the beach," because we had made a reservation at this little hotel on the water in St. Petersburg. Well, he didn't tell us that we had to deliver a whole truckload of insulation before we could get to our destination. So we get in the car. Oh, God, it's packed. You couldn't even see out the back window. Thank God he knew how to drive. It was a Willys Jeep, and it was packed to the back window. We had to deliver all that insulation before we could go to the hotel. We had to take it on the job. We had to deliver all that to the job. It took us about 2 hours to deliver all that to the job before we could go on our honeymoon. He said, you know how he was, "It's not any trouble, you're going that way anyway." But I loved him very much, and he was a wonderful man. But he did not like me. And I said to him, "I know you love me. You tell me that all the time, but you don't like me." He said, "No, I don't." He said, "If you could change and be more like my mother and your sister, I could be happy being married to you. But I can't live with you and be happy with you the way you are." He was a wonderful man. But I said, you don't like me, so therefore I'm going to get a divorce. And I did. I got a divorce. Archie from Utah, yeah. Yeah, I did. I did him for a long time. And he introduced me to, so many celebrities. I left Atlanta and I came back to Tampa, and I had to start all over again. We had a quota that we had to fill in sales. So I needed to fill my quota, so I found this big building, and I figured there's a lot of offices in there. So I went in there and went in different offices and introduced myself and one thing and another. And I went into this particular office where Ralph was. I met him, and I told him about my product and one thing and another, and I wanted to demonstrate and all that. So he allowed me to demonstrate, and he said, "Oh, look, that's really good. I really need one of those." He said, I said, "Well, good, well, let me go ahead and get a contract out." "Oh, no," he says, "I'm not ready for them yet." So he had me coming back every week for like a month. And finally I said to him, "Mr. Buchman, this is Marie Catarossi. I hope you remember who I am, sir." "Oh, yes, of course." "Sir, you have been telling me for 5 months that you're going to be buying 5 machines from me, and I've yet to get a contract. May I come over this evening and get a contract?" He said, "Look, when I first met you, I really needed those machines, but we sold that part of the business months ago. And I don't need them at all, but I just had you coming back because you're very attractive and I wanted to get to know you." And you know what I said to him? "If you're that afraid to make contact with me, to ask me out, you're not my kind of man." So I hung up on him. And he waited 3 months to call me back. And when he called me back, I said, "Hello?" He said, "This is Ralph, don't hang up." It was riding a roller coaster really fast around the world. He never knew what he was going to do. And he did everything with such elan. He is so good to me. He is. I told him that I'm his favorite PIA.
Yeah.
She's
Hearing
wonderful.
about you.
Very good to me. Yeah, I've had a good life. I'm not afraid. That's the thing about me. I have no fear. And I just go right into things and say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to make it happen. Life is funny. You go through passages.
Well, that's our mom, Mama Marie. You know, she always said there's three kinds of people: those who make it happen, those who watch it happen, and those who wonder what happened. Mom is always a make it happen person. Happy 90th birthday to you, Mom. 90. Happy 90th. Happy birthday, Mom.